Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to this webinar on building or rebuilding your credit. My name is Renee McEvoy. I am the CEO and founder of Touchstones Financial Wellness Services Company, and I am an accredited financial counselor, and I will be your presenter for this webinar. First of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Touchstones Financial Wellness Services. We are a financial wellness organization. We provide financial counseling and financial education literacy services throughout Howard County and Maryland. Um, our services are free. We mainly provide services to low and moderate income individuals and families to help them become financially stable and sustainable, and provide them with the opportunity to pursue their financial goals. Today, we're going to be talking about building or rebuilding your credit. Now, first of all, what is credit? In simplest terms, the term credit describes an arrangement in which goods, services, or money is received in exchange for a promise to repay at a future date. So credit represents a form of trust that is established between a lender and a borrower, whether you are borrowing money, whether you are borrowing goods. It is trust that you will repay that money or those goods to the person that you are borrowing it from. So now, what is interest? Interest is what is charged for the privilege of borrowing the money. Typically, it is expressed in an annual percentage rate, which is representing renting that one is paying while using someone else's money. The Truth in Lending Act was required by lenders to state the finance charge, both in dollars and as an annual percentage rate. That is helping an individual know just how much it is costing them to actually rent the money. Now, there are different types of credit that you can get. The first one is closed-in credit, which is also known as installment credit. This often takes the term of a loan that is repaid in equal payments over a set period of time. You might recognize that like your car payment. When you get your car payment, it is broken up into equal payment amounts. You also have open-end credit, which is revolving credit. This can take the form of like your credit cards, which you spend and you spend, and that just keeps going on and on. And you can just keep reloading. It reloads, and this allows you to repeat the use of credit as long as regular monthly payments are maintained. So when we look at credit, we want to know, so what are the advantages of credit? There are several advantages of credit. I know people sometimes say credit is evil. I don't want to have credit. Why should I even have credit? Well, there are advantages of having credit. First, often we need credit for reservations. Now you cannot go on vacations. You can't go on trips without having a credit card. You can't get a phone without having a credit card. You can't order online without having a credit card most times. And you definitely cannot rent a car without having a credit card. A credit card can be used for emergencies when you're out, your car breaks down, or any type of emergencies like that. It's very useful to have a credit card. Credit cards help a record of your purchases. It's very good when you're trying to do tracking of your purchases. And then also credit cards help to establish a positive credit history for future needs of used purchase. Um, People who do not have any credit are considered what a lender would be invisible. Um, and sometimes that can hurt you when you haven't established any type of credit history. Your credit invisible. So what can be the disadvantages of credit? There are disadvantages of credit, especially if you do not manage your credit well. One is you may have to give up other needs to make credit card payments. Now, again, if you are not good at managing your credit, and you have misused your credit, there may be times that you have to give up something else in order to make your credit card payments too. Um, you may buy more than you can pay for or need. Okay, again, these things are people who are unable to manage their credit life. And three, usually cost more than cash. Yes, yes. If you are again unable to manage your credit life, you may be spending a lot more with your credit card. And again, it's very easy to lose track of what you're spending when you have a credit card than when you have cash. When you have cash, you have a set amount of cash. And so you know when you've spent it, it's gone. With a credit card, it's very easy to go swipe, 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 and you lose track of what you have. So you usually will tend to spend more with a credit card than you do cash. And four, ties up future income. So yes, if you have spent a lot on those credit cards and you have a huge credit balance, you may not be able to spend on something you want down the line if you are tied up in paying your credit cards. So that is very true. So then why do you need credit? If it looks like, you know, credit can be a headache and you really may do better with cash, why? Why do we need credit? Well, as I said, there are some good uses to having credit. One is getting phone service. Credit shows character, and so a lot of vendors require you to have credit for them to provide you with service, and one of them is phone service. So they do require you to have credit. Two, applying for a job. Employers will look at your credit history in order to check your character, in order to see how you manage your financial life. They look at your credit. Buying a home, definitely. Home lenders look at your credit, again, to look at your character, to see how you manage your financial life. They look at your credit. Again, renting an apartment, they're looking at how do you manage your financial life. Character, they're looking at that. So yes, they're looking at your credit. Qualifying for insurance, another vendor that looks at your credit as a way to looking at how you manage your financial life. And purchasing a car, another lender that looks at how you're managing your financial life, to look at your character. And then why do you need credit? Having credit does allow you to spread out payments if you are looking at purchasing an expensive item, such as a car, a home, even large appliances, things like that. If you do not have the cash to pay up front for those things, credit will allow you to spread those payments out over time. So how do you build a credit history? How do you go about building a credit history? Well, one of the ways that you can build a credit history is by establishing an account. So how do we go about establishing an account if we want to build a credit history? Well, one of the ways that we can do that is every credit journey must begin somewhere. And while it may seem impossible to begin your own, when creditors keep denying your application and due to your lack of credit, because like I said, sometimes not having credit can be a problem, there is possible to build your credit history from scratch. So one of the ways that you can do that is opening an account with a local store, or even consider getting a gas card. One of the other ways you may be able to do to establish an account is to find a co-signer, or get someone to put you on their credit card as an authorized user. You may also go about getting a secured card. A secured card can be a great way of building credit because almost any applicant can qualify for them. They're backed by a mandatory cash deposit, meaning you deposit money into an account, and that money is used as the limit for your secured card. And so it helps to remove the risk of default for the issuer. You want to be sure, however, that the company reports the card to the credit bureau so that your positive payment history can help to build your credit file. Now, while you are building your credit history, you want to make sure that you are using your cards responsibly, okay? You want to pay all your bills promptly, and you don't want to bounce any checks while you're doing it. Now, you can also use, for those individuals who are starting their credit history in college, you can also get student credit cards through your college. They can be a great option as well. These cards, however, typically have higher acceptance, higher interest rates, but they do have a high acceptance rate because they have promotional offers, and colleges are really quick to give cards out to college students to help them get established while they're in school. You also have the retail cards. They're really big. They have a lot of entry rates and starter rates. However, be aware and be wary of these starter rates, because these cards, as well as the secured cards, they have low credit limits. Okay, so it's very easy to exceed your limits and exceed the 30% rate, so that you want to make sure that you're not spending above your 30% debt limit on those cards. So just be wary of that. Like I said, be responsible in your spending and pay your bills promptly. So here's a review. Secured cards are credit cards backed by money you deposit. Okay, retail credit cards are credit cards that are through consumer companies, retail stores, gas companies, and you want to make sure you read the fine print in your credit card agreement and statement. You want to go over that contract very carefully, okay? Because the fine print contains very important details. You do not want to rush into signing anything, because once a contract is signed, it is signed. You want to make sure you get a copy and know the penalties for missing payments, know the penalties for going over your debt limit, and know the fees. Know your fees. So use your credit responsibly, okay? Once you receive your first credit card, I know it's going to be so exciting, but it's also important to get your credit history off to a good start. Keep in mind these smart credit habits, okay? So 1, consider paying your cards in full. Now, in order to do that, you want to make sure you are keeping that credit debt limit to that 30%. Contrary to popular belief, you do not have to carry a balance to build good credit, okay? We're sure you don't enjoy wasting money. So as often as you can, consider paying your entire balance to avoid paying interest on purchases. Okay, you will be so proud of yourself. Now, 2, it is important to pay your bills on time. All right, so late payments can stay on your credit reports for 7 years, and it can wreck your score. So try to make each payment on time. Now, 3 is try not to max out those cards. While you may be excited about receiving your first credit card, don't be overzealous and proceed to test its limit. It could make it look like you're desperate for credit, and instead try to use only 30% of your available credit. This looks good to the creditors because it will show them that you use your credit but are not overly reliant on it. Now, unfortunately, it can be much easier to destroy your credit than it is to fix it. So try to look at this as a new beginning, as an opportunity to form good habits and start your credit history off right. The time and effort you put into building this solid foundation might eventually get you better cards, loans, and rates, and may even end up saving you money. So good luck and happy building. Now, as you begin the process of building or even rebuilding your credit score, keep in mind that it's a marathon and not a sprint. But improving or building a credit score is worth the effort. A poor score, which can be anywhere between 400 and 600, can potentially cost you tens of thousands of dollars over the course of a lifetime. It can also become a source of serious stress, so making you feel like you just can't leave the mistakes of your past behind and move on. But plenty of people struggle to improve their scores and build scores, and there are numerous ways to build a good credit score and reap the rewards that come with having a good score of 700 or more. So people often ask, why is credit denied? There are many, many reasons why credit can be denied. But the most common reasons are: 1, no credit history at all; 2, you've been a victim of fraud; 3, you have too much outstanding debt; 4, your credit has not been handled responsibly in the past; or 5, maybe you have too much credit and not enough available income. So there are 3 things that lenders look at. 1, they look at capacity; 2, they look at capital; 3, they look at character; and 4, they look at collateral. Capacity is your ability to pay. Capital is your ability to cover your debt. Character is who you are, and collateral is what you have to pay back. So here we go. Let's look. Capacity. Do you have a job? How much money do you make? What are your monthly expenses? So those are the things that a lender is thinking about when they're thinking about your capacity. Collateral. Do you have adequate assets to secure a loan? Do you own a home or a car? Those are some of the things that a lender is looking at when they're thinking about collateral. Character. Have you had credit in the past? If so, how many credit card accounts or other accounts do you have? And if so, do you pay your bills on time? So those are the things a lender is looking at when they're considering your character. And finally, capital. Do you have a checking or savings account? If so, how much money do you have in your bank accounts? And finally, do you have any other investments or assets? And those are the things that a lender is thinking about when they're thinking about capital. So when you are thinking about obtaining credit or any other type of loan, the first thing you want to do is obtain your own credit reports so you can look at them. And one way to do that in obtaining a free credit report is through annualcreditreport.com. As I said, this is the only way you can obtain a true free credit report without without going through any type of organization or any, your bank or anything like that. Each company is mandated to give you a free credit report once a year, and your credit report is also free if you've been denied credit based on your credit report in the past 60 days. And like I said, you can go through annual credit reports. You can get one every 12 months from each credit agency. Okay. Now, your FICO scores and why are they so important? FICO score, of course, is the Fair Isaac Corporation score. It is the most widely known credit scoring system. It ranges from 300 to 850. A high FICO score can often, of course, help you qualify for better rates from a lender. And the FICO score does not include insurance, internet, your cell phone bill. They are not part of the scoring. You can get your rent included through your rental agency if they participate in a particular program. And of course, recently it's been decided that medical bills and collection and other debts such as that are no longer included in your score. An average FICO score is about 673, and as we said in earlier slides, a good score is about 720. Okay, so that would be a good score in terms of your lender. So now, what makes up your FICO score? How is the lender looking at and determining your FICO score? So first of all, your payment history and the amount you owe makes up 65% of your FICO score. So that's something to really think about when you're thinking about how am I paying my debt? How am I managing my debt, my credit cards? How am I managing those? So if you have credit card debt, if you have other debt, you want to make sure that one, you are paying on time, okay, and that you are managing your limits, that you are keeping them at that 30% because they are making up 65% of your credit score. The rest of your credit score is made up at one, how much debt you have, the amount of credit cards you have, the how many accounts you have open, the length of time you've had them, and the types of credit that is used. So let's look at that. So how many new accounts you have. And how long it's been since you've opened a new account. So what you want to make sure is that you're not closing any accounts, and that your lender isn't closing any of your accounts. So what you want to do is not having accounts being closed because of non-usage. Okay, so you want to make sure you are, or that you are not having accounts closed because you know you haven't been using them wisely. So look at that, because if you have accounts closed because you haven't been using them, that really makes a difference in your debt load. Okay, so you want to look at that. And then the length of credit history. How long have you had each account? So, and how long has it been since you used the account? So you want to look at that too. So long-standing accounts and accounts that have been in good standing for a long length of time, that really looks good for your account too. And then types of credit use. So lenders look at the mix of your accounts. So like if you have a certain mix of revolving and installment accounts, that's a good look also. That makes a difference in your score as well. So now for some people, the consumer statement can make a difference in your credit score and your credit report. So if, let's say, if the credit bureau refuses to make a correction, if you had a dispute and you know something isn't correct on your credit report, but you're having a hard time getting them to make a change or correction, you can use this consumer statement to make your own statement on your credit report that will go in your credit bureau file, that helps to make your part of the dispute known, so that when someone looks at your credit report, they can see, well, yes, this happened with this account. However, this is what my part of this dispute has to say, and that way individuals looking at that account can see what your part of the story was. So if you're someone who is in the stage of rebuilding your credit, there are 3 steps that you can take in rebuilding your credit. The first thing you want to do is review your credit reports, because you want to make sure that the information that is in your credit report is correct. And if it's not correct, you want to make sure that you are going through the necessary stages that you need to do to make those corrections, and to put in that consumer statement if you need to. And secondly, you want to make sure that you are pinpointing what you need to do to make any improvements that need to be done as well. No one can legally remove accurate and timely negative information from a credit report, but you can, however, ask for an investigation at no charge to you of information in your file that you have disputed as inaccurate or incomplete. Okay, so what you want to do is first go through the necessary steps that you need to do to make any changes, and any changes that need to be made to correct any inaccurate information. And that means you have to go about reviewing that information, and then you want to go about creating a plan that you need to, in terms of improving the your score. So first step is reviewing your credit reports. So once you have your credit report in your hand, here is just a quick list of questions that you want to ask yourself to help you spot any potential errors. So the first one is, you want to make sure that your personal information is accurate. Secondly, you want to make sure that all of your credit accounts are reported, and you want to check for any credit accounts that shouldn't be on there. And then secondly, you want to make sure that there are, if there are any late or missed payments listed that you don't remember making that were on time. Fourthly, you want to go through and account for any accounts or applications for credit that you don't recognize. And then finally, you want to go through any items from decades ago that are appearing on your report that should have been removed. So those are just some things that you want to identify that that are errors that you could go about and correct. So once you've identified those, you want to pinpoint what you need to improve. So one, you can improve for identity theft. You want to fix any collection accounts from years ago. You want to fix any bills that probably an ex or family member or was supposed to pay, and now you're suffering the consequences. You want to correct any defaulted student loans you may have had, and now they're showing up as multiple defaults. And you want to fix any credit information that has been mixed with someone else's, or maybe have your similar name or anything like that that has come across on your credit report that you need to fix. You want to also clear up any collection accounts, any utilization ratios, anything that you see that may be on there that doesn't belong to you. So now that you've gone through and identified errors and corrected any errors, now it's time for you to create a plan. So once you are ready to create the plan, here's some things that you want to identify. So one, you want to fix any late payments that you have identified. So even closing an account won't make your late payments disappear. So your best bet here is to probably get yourself back on the right track, okay? So secondly, you want to clear up any collection accounts, okay? So you want to pay off your debt instead of repeatedly transferring it to new accounts. The best bet here is to contact the debt collector listed on your credit report to see if they'll be willing to stop reporting the debt to the credit bureaus in exchange for a partial or full payment, depending on the amount of the debt. Because they may be willing to do a payoff. So thirdly, limit applications. Okay, many people are they don't understand that repeated applications can lower your credit score. Okay, and so when you go into the store and they're like, oh, you can get a 10% discount if you sign up for the store credit, and all those applications add up and they lower your credit score. Okay, it gets hit every time you do one of those. So you want to limit doing those store applications every time you walk into a store. Yes, you get that 10%, but guess what? Your credit score is getting dinged every time you do that. And then fix your credit utilization ratio. If your credit card balances are up over that 30%, your credit score, that utilization is 30% of your credit score. If your utilization on your credit cards are up over that 30%, that is dinging your credit score something awful. So if you pay off your balances in full every month by the payment due date, that is making a huge impact on your credit score. So the two highest percentages of your credit score is paying on time, 35%, and that utilization, 30%. Those two are 65% of your credit score. So that's what's making the biggest impact on your credit score. So what about identity theft? Identity theft, of course, is the fraudulent acquisition and use of a person's private information. And it's usually for financial gain. And that's the biggest thing that's happening right now. Identity theft is going rampant, okay? And it's a crime, and it has destroyed many of people's credit, okay? And so one of the ways to handle that, of course, is one, report it to the authorities, but also a credit freeze, which can prevent a credit bureau from releasing your credit report to merchants and financial institutions without your consent. And you may put a credit freeze in place by contacting one of the credit reporting agencies. And it can help while you try to kind of fix things. And it, you know, you can kind of get things in place. And once you get some things tightened up, you can have it removed before you apply for new credit. So I know this is a lot of information, and if you have found yourself in this position and you need help with either rebuilding or building, or setting up your plan, or helping to fix things, you can schedule a free financial counseling session, and you can do that. You can do that by contacting Touchstone's Financial Wellness Services, myself, and getting in contact with us by calling 410-707-1378, and we can help you with getting a plan in place, and helping you with this with setting up a either building or rebuilding your financial future. Thank you so much for joining us on this webinar, and we look forward to helping you with your financial goals.